Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Dubrow Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 16, Episodes 11 and 12. And let me just say that both episodes were very good. Now, I know that some people on social media have been complaining that they don't like this season, but I actually think that this season of OC has been pretty good. I think it's definitely been their best season in quite some time, and I'm enjoying myself. The drama isn't as heavy as it's been in the past, or like the other franchises out right now, but I'm not mad at it. Sometimes you don't need so much heavy drama. It's nice to have some light stuff. Now, you guys already know that I'm going to be getting on Gina, Emily, and Noella because they continually try it. Dr. Jen, I have some choice words about you and this messed up marriage that you are trying so desperately to hold on to. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. So just a quick FYI, I'm going to breeze through episode 11, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown, but we start off episode 11 with Emily, and we see that she is preparing for her daughter's baptism. And remember that Emily's not really religious, but Shane is. He's a devout Mormon, so she will be baptized into the Mormon church. And she's excited. Emily's emotional and excited. And she keeps saying how she just wants her kids to have a better life than she did. Now, in this episode, we don't see the ceremony, but we do see the reception party afterwards. And can I say something? Shane's parents' home is absolutely stunning.
I love it. I love it.
I remember Emily saying when she first got on this show that Shane came from a rich family, but I didn't know how rich. But their house solidified that they are very rich. Gorgeous home, and Shane's parents always seem so sweet, so nice. I love how his mom is ready to party. I think her name is Parry, but Mama is on it, and she still looks very good. So Emily and Shane have invited a lot of their friends, family over for the party, and we see that she also invited Gina. Now, Emily, this is a celebration for your daughter being baptized, so why are you bringing up the drama that's going on between Gina and Shannon? And I thought that she looked so desperate discussing it. I was getting so annoyed when she was like, Gina, I went out to dinner with Dr. Jen and Shannon the other night, and I might have accidentally brought up how you think that Shannon's jealous of you. And she's like, I had one too many martinis or tequila. I'm like, Emily, you are not 21 years old, just started drinking. You are almost 50 years old. Stop being so immature. I can't stand her. And it's evident that Emily has no storyline because she is always instigating. And I was so annoyed when Gina was like, Shannon's really pissing me off and Shannon's self-centered. It's all about her. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And Gina, what a slap in the face, because if I recall, Shannon was a great friend to you when you were going through all your divorce drama with Matt. I didn't forget. And on top of that, I'll never forget how you guys had that day on Rodeo Drive. And since you didn't have any money, Shannon bought you a few outfits and some jewelry. She didn't have to do that because nobody else in the group offered to buy you anything. They were all looking at you like, oh girl, well, I guess you're gonna watch us shop, with your broke ass. But now you want to sit up here and say that Shannon's jealous of you. If that isn't a joke, then I don't know what is. I think you got things twisted since now you want to be best friends with Heather. And the only reason why you want to be best friends with Heather is because Heather has more money than Shannon. It's embarrassing at how much of a social climber you are. If anybody's jealous, I'll bet you money that it's Emily. I think that Emily feels a type of way that Gina and Heather are close. And she probably feels annoyed that Heather's stealing her best friend away from her. Because remember that Emily's also very territorial. And because they joined this show at the same time, they have that bond. But she doesn't want to come out and say that she feels jealous, so she wants to project her insecurities onto Shannon. and throw Shannon under the bus, when in reality, Miss Emily, you're the one who's jealous. Miss Gina did not have much going on in this episode. We do see a short scene with her and Heather at her house, and Heather's helping her clean out her closet, get rid of some things that she doesn't even wear, and they're preparing for the trip to New York. So not a whole lot over there. We didn't see a whole lot of scenes with Shannon either in this episode. We see another short scene with her and her boyfriend John out at dinner, and she's pissed about how Gina thinks that she's jealous of her. So I love Shannon's boyfriend. He had me screaming. He was like, wait, what? Like, you've been nothing but a friend to her. So for her to say that you're jealous of her, like, that's a joke. But honestly, if I were Shannon, I would pay Gina and Emily dust. Because I know that I'm not jealous. So whatever they say, it's like, okay, girl, if that's what you need to sleep at night, then so be it. Now, the most explosive scene in this episode was the night at Heather and Terry Dubrow's dinner party. Heather and Terry throw this fabulous dinner with all of their married friends who have been married for quite some time. We see one of their friends has been married for, I think, 25 plus years. Another couple has been married for 40 years. And another couple, I think it's like 20 years as well. And Heather and Terry have been married for, I think, 25 years as well, too. So we see that they've invited Dr. Jen and Ryne over because they want to mentor them since they're having some marital issues. So, child, you can already feel that this night is about to go from okay to awkward to just bad. Dr. Jen and Ryne arrive first. Terry's trying to get to know Ryne. They go downstairs to the game room and he's trying to feel him out. Ryne reveals that he's never held a real job before. He used to play poker all the time and that's how he would make money. I said, Dr. Jen, you're telling me that you were okay with this man never having a job before. That was okay to you?
No.
Listen, I am very traditional when it comes to certain things. Role reversal, and I have said it time and time again, but role reversal does not seem to work. It just doesn't. Look at Wendy Williams, Sherry Shepherd, Jill Scott, Mary J. Blige, Kelly Clarkson. The list goes on and on and on. And Dr. Jen and Ryne are going through it. And I said it in the first episode that her being the breadwinner is probably the reason why they're having issues. And we see that there's resentment on both sides because Dr. Jen is the breadwinner. So now we see all of Heather and Terry's friends arrive and the dinner party begins. So everybody's going around the table talking about, how they met and how to keep a long-lasting, successful marriage. So while everybody is talking, Ryan's being awkward. He's not saying a whole lot. And Jen is getting shit-faced. Every single time the server comes around to refill those drinks, Jen is like, hey, more wine, please. Like, fill it up to the top. I mean, Dr. Jen was 3 sheets to the wind. And it's no judgment because we have all been there. But I was like, girl, this isn't really the time or the place. Like, y'all are at a very sophisticated dinner. You guys aren't at a club or a party. So we see Terry giving a toast. Now Dr. Jen interrupts and she gives the most drunken toast I have ever heard. I mean, Dr. Jen was rivaling Dorinda from New York, because remember how Dorinda gets good and drunk and she starts slurring her words. So she makes a really silly joke. Everybody at the table is like, okay, mama has been overserved. So Ryne is obviously checked out, but he's also embarrassed at his wife's behavior. And remember that Ryne doesn't drink, so he was really annoyed. So while the dinner's going on, things are just getting progressively worse. Dr. Jen wants her husband to be affectionate towards her. She wants him to hug her and just give her a kiss. She keeps saying, give me a kiss, give me a kiss. He gives her like a peck on the cheek and she wants more. I just felt so bad for Dr. Jen, and I had the worst secondhand embarrassment. Like, I could barely take notes during this scene because I was just looking at the screen like, oh my gosh, make it stop, make it stop. So to make matters worse, the food comes out, everybody's eating, and Ryne tucks his napkin into his shirt instead of putting it on his lap. So now everybody's looking because it's like, bro, are we at a barbecue joint? Like, what's going on? Heather makes a joke in her confessional, like, does he not own any more shirts? He needs to protect the shirt that much that he's wearing it like a bib. And no shade, but I was like, Ryne, do you get out much? You know, do you know that the proper way is to have the napkin on your lap? I don't know. I was just kind of like, Ryne has very poor social skills. He wasn't really talking to anybody. He just seemed like he didn't want to be there. And Dr. Jen even pointed that out too, that her husband isn't really social. He's very aloof. And a lot of people think that he's an asshole because he doesn't speak to folks. And I was like, it just seems like they're just a match made in hell. It just seems to be just a hot mess. Even when Dr. Jen was telling everybody at the table how she and Ryne met, they met at a breakfast buffet. She liked him immediately. And when she said she gave him her number and it took 4 weeks for him to call her back, I was like, Jen, if a man called me 4 weeks later, not only would the number be blocked, but if I did pick up, it would be like, wait, who is this again? Like, what are you talking about? I'm already on to the next. Like, 4 weeks. I couldn't imagine. And my heart broke because it just seems like from the beginning, Dr. Jen was very desperate. And it feels like she liked him way more than he liked her. And when Heather was asking Ryne some questions about what did you think when you met Dr. Jen initially, and Dr. Jen didn't want him to speak, it was like, are you scared about what he's going to say? Because why won't you let him speak? The whole thing was just very bizarre, but Dr. Jen got so drunk that her husband got annoyed and he ends up leaving the table. So he's irritated. Everybody at the table is shocked. Heather feels awful for her friend. And then we see Dr. Jen and Ryne leave. The episode ends with them in the car back home, and she wants to cuddle with him in the back seat, and he's not having it. I just felt so bad. Like, this is such a shame. And I was reading in page 6 that Dr. Jen admit that they did separate, but now they're back together and happier than ever. I don't believe a word of this. I think that Ryne is just biding his time and he wants out. And I feel like Dr. Jen knows that this marriage is doomed, and that's the real reason why she got on the show in the first place, to secure more coins, because since she makes all the money, and I'll bet that there was no prenup, something tells me that if they divorce, she'll be paying him alimony and spousal support and all that stuff. Just a mess. So we start off episode 12 with Dr. Jen and Emily doing some workouts on the beach. Then we flip over to another short scene with Noella at home talking to her mom about how she just found out that her soon-to-be ex-husband James is back in the OC. She was looking at his credit card statements and she saw that he had a $1,000 dinner at Mastro's. So she's like, you know what, Mom? I should have popped up like, hey, you know, I'm James's wife. And James, you're a pathetic man. The fact that you have a son with this woman and you don't care about his well-being is very sad. Like, it's pathetic. So now we see the next scene and Miss Gina is at the airport hangar with her new BFF Heather and Heather's twins. They are on their way to New York, and of course they're flying private. So Gina's in her confessional saying how excited she is. It's her second time flying private now. And on top of that, she just feels so good about herself. And Gina, sweetheart, come close, because you do know that As a cast member of The Real Housewives, this is supposed to be normal for you. You do know that, right? Like, you shouldn't be so in awe of this. I'm convinced that Gina slid somebody in production $10 while she was auditioning because it still makes no sense to me as to how she's on this show. So while they're flying private on their way to New York, we flip back to Emily and Dr. Jen on the beach, and they're discussing Dr. Jen and Ryan's doomed marriage. So Emily's trying to give her best Dr. Phil advice, and she's like, you have to make it work. And I think that people give up way too easily. I'm like, Emily, you do know that one person cannot make a marriage work, right? Like, both people have to want it. It is evident that Ryne has checked out of this marriage. And the fact that he's not bringing any money in the house, he would have been gone. Well, actually, I would have never married him. So Dr. Jen says that she wants to make it work, and on top of that, there's resentment on both sides. But definitely on Ryan's side, because he wants credit. She continues on by saying that Ryne doesn't feel respected or valued, and he feels a type of way at the fact that she bought their house. And when I did my Google search, I saw that Dr. Jen paid $5 million for that gorgeous home, and she has him in there with no income. I'm gonna get angry, so let me just get off of that. But Ryan wants his name on the deed. I said, Dr. Jen, if you're smart, don't do it. Because should he walk out that door, which I think he will, y'all will be having to split the sale of that house. Keep that house in your name and your name only. And I was so pissed when Dr. Jen revealed in the last episode that she had gotten an email that the mortgage hasn't been paid. So I'm like, what is Ryan doing with the money that you're making? Like, that's ridiculous. I'm just so upset for Dr. Jen in this situation. Like, this is a real mess. She married a loser who doesn't like her or even love her. It's terrible. And I feel really sorry for her. It's just so sad to see her crying about this man who obviously doesn't care. So now we jump right back to Heather and Gina. They are officially in Syracuse, New York. And Heather's excited, but she's also kind of emotional. It's kind of nostalgic to be back on her old stomping grounds. Because remember that Syracuse is Heather's alma mater. So they check into the hotel, and Heather and Gina decide to go out and explore the town. So Heather's like, let's go to this old college bar that I used to go to all the time. And it's this place called Fagan's. And it's just so funny to see Heather drink something that's not champagne. So while they're at the bar drinking their well drinks, Heather's going over the itinerary for the next day. She's like, okay, so earlier in the day, me and the twins are going to do a campus tour, and then I'm going to do the live show of my podcast, and we're going to hop on the plane to take us to Manhattan. So Gina's like, cool stuff, sounds good. And then Heather brings up the family dinner that they're going to have the next night in the city. So she's like, I'm super excited to meet your parents. Gina says that her parents are excited to meet her, and they can't wait. So since they're talking about family, Gina brings up that she has a brother who's 18 months apart, and they're super close. So she goes on to say that her brother was always really smart, and he has a great job, and she went the opposite direction. She says that while she was in college, she wanted to marry her college sweetheart, which happened to be her ex-husband, and she went the family route. And when that collapsed, it just feels so different than what she envisioned. And I'm like, Gina, although I can't stand you, I will offer a few encouraging words. I think that that's the case for pretty much everybody. I think that we all have had a vision in our heads, and it went differently. And just because it went differently doesn't mean that it's bad. I think that the twists, the turns, the delays, the setbacks, the trials, the tribulations add some spice. They add some character. You appreciate the good times. I think that it would be boring if things went exactly as planned. Gina needs to let go of that image that she had and just embrace what's to come and not worry so much. So now it's the next day, and we see Heather with the twins, and they are checking out the campus. Heather says that while it would be cool for her kids to go to the same school that she did, she is not hell-bent on them going to the same school. She's like, I want them to forge their own path and do what makes them happy. I'm not gonna hold you. I have always seen similarities with Heather and Terry in my parents, because my parents raised us the same way. They wanted us to follow our dreams, always our biggest supporters, our biggest fans. They were always telling us that we could do something. So yeah, I just love seeing other parents being supportive and really just loving on their kids and letting them know that I'm rooting for you, I got your back, you know, I'm happy for you. And I used to love when my dad would say, you don't know that I'm happier for you than you are for yourself. And that always just stays with me to this day. But I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but I just love seeing how Heather and Terry are so loving to their children. They really do remind me of my parents. But anyhow, before I get super emotional, so the campus tour is over, and now it is time for Heather's live show. And I thought it was fabulous. I really liked Heather talking about her life journey, talking about the lessons that she learned along the way, finding out that she won Miss Syracuse, I think it was 1989, and how because of that pageant, she gained so much confidence, new skills like public speaking, just learning how to just be her whole self again. And you could see that it really resonated with the other students who were watching her. And I just loved it. You can see that Heather really is a natural in front of the camera. She really does enjoy talking in front of people. She was definitely in her element. So now we jump over to the next scene, and it is the night of Shannon's cooking/dinner party. Dr. Jen, Noella, and Emily arrive to her house, and Shannon is so excited because she knows how to cook and they can't. So they're going to be getting a lesson in how to make a delicious meal. And when I tell you that Shannon did not come to play, she had the chef coats for everybody and the chef hats and hairnets on top of that. I said, you better be prepared, Shannon. I have to say, Shannon is consistently funny. Like, her being so neurotic is hilarious. And she's funny without even trying. Oh, a quick side note. I actually met Shannon a few years back. She was in New York, and I was at Lavo. And I saw her and Sonia Morgan in the same night. And she was sitting at the table next to me. And I whispered, is that Shannon Beador from OC? And it was when she had just joined the cast. And it was so funny because one of my friends turns around and says, hi, are you Shannon Beador from OC? Because my friend watches you on that show and she wants to say hi. And she was very sweet. So they start cooking, and the meal for the night is delicious grilled shrimp in a tomato and fennel sauce. And you already know that my mouth was salivating. Everybody's having a good time learning how to make the meal. Now we see Noella make a joke about how cooking is like giving a blowjob. She can do it, but she doesn't want to do it. And I was like, okay, girl. So everybody finishes making their grilled shrimp with the tomato fennel sauce, and they sit down to eat. So Shannon starts asking everybody if they've spoken to Heather or Gina, and Emily says, oh yeah, I did talk to them, and I told them have a great trip. So now Shannon says, let's give them a call and see how they're doing. So now she calls Heather, and Heather doesn't pick up the phone. So they start joking like, oh, she probably has you blocked. I was like, don't do this. Like, Noella and Emily, stop instigating, stop being messy, okay? First of all, New York is 3 hours ahead of California. So there's a multitude of reasons why Heather wouldn't pick up the phone. She could be sleeping, she could be up in the air. You don't know what she was doing. Like, let's not jump to the worst possible conclusion. And I really hate how Emily and Noella are always trying to add fuel to the fire. So now we see that Heather, Gina, and the twins have arrived into Manhattan and they have checked into their hotel. So they decide to FaceTime Shannon back, and now everybody at the dinner party is saying hello to them. So they're like, hey guys, hope you guys are having a good trip. We'll talk to you guys later. So now Shannon hangs up the phone and she brings up the jealousy comment. So Emily's being annoying as always. And she says, well, that's just what Gina told me. She told me that she felt like you were jealous of her. So Shannon says, but why though? What have I ever given off that would scream that I'm jealous of her? Like, I need to know. So now Shannon gets really angry and she says, Gina's ego has become overinflated and she needs to put a pin in it. Like, it's enough already. So Emily's trying to defend her friend and she says, but doesn't she deserve to have an overinflated ego? She's been through so much. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Everybody has a story. Everybody has had some sort of tragedy in their lives, in some shape, way, or form. But that's not an excuse to be nasty and accuse everybody of being jealous of you. So now they're done eating dinner, and now everybody wants to have some more drinks and just have some fun and dance. So while Shannon's looking over her playlist because they want to hear some music, Dr. Jen says that she wants to call it a night because she wants to get home. It's clear that Dr. Jen is visibly upset by something. It's obviously her marriage, and she's telling Shannon in hushed tones that she and Ryne have agreed that he's going to move out for a month. So while Dr. Jen is whispering to Shannon about her problems, we see Noella and Emily whispering about her. And Emily says, Jen, just stay. Have a good time with us. Like, we all have problems. That's not an excuse to leave early. So Dr. Jen is super pissed and she's like, this is not what friends do. Like, friends don't whisper behind each other's backs. And she storms out. And then you have Noella saying, like, Jen, we're a sisterhood. I'm like, Noella, what are you talking about? Y'all are not a sisterhood. You barely get along with anybody in this group. Like, let's start there. And Emily, that was really rude how you treated Dr. Jen. If she wants to leave early, let her leave early. So Dr. Jen is like, shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
And now it's just Shannon, Noella, and Emily. And they are good and drunk. They end up outside by Shannon's pool. They all strip down, jump in, and you already know that Miss Shannon is 3 sheets to the wind too. And I was shocked when Shannon stripped down and got in the pool. I was like, okay, Shannon. And it was so adorable when Shannon's dog Archie jumped into the pool too. I was like, aw, isn't he cute? Now we cut to a very short yet emotional scene with Dr. Jen seeing Dr. Tina. Of course, Ryne didn't show up to this session, so it's just her. And Dr. Tina is trying to get to the root of Dr. Jen's issues in the marriage. And she's pretty much telling Dr. Jen to work on herself and really figure out what she can do to make things better. It was very sad hearing Dr. Jen say how much she feels rejected and saying that, it brought up a lot of unresolved issues since her mom wasn't that affectionate. And it just made me really sad. But my heart really goes out to Jen. I'm curious as to what she's going to say about the state of her marriage when we get to the reunion. I'm very interested to see if anything has changed, if it's still the same. Like, I just feel like Ryne has checked out and doesn't want to be there anymore. So now we are back to one of the last scenes of the night, and it is the big family dinner with Heather, her mom, her uncle, and her aunt, Gina and her parents, and Heather's twins. They're at the restaurant, everybody's in good spirits, except for Heather's mom. Now, Heather's mom is on a totally different level. Like, I get being proper, elegant, refined, that's great. But when you border on rude and being a snob, that's when it becomes a problem. Heather's mom doesn't seem like she's in a good mood. She seems like she's snippy. She's making a big fuss about her drink. She wants it a certain way. She's complaining about how the table isn't set right. And it's like, if you're unhappy with the place settings, then just change them. I know how to set a table. If I see that the fork or the spoon is in the wrong place, I simply change it and I don't make a big fuss about it. But, I mean, she's just going on. And Heather says, while me and my mom are similar, where we're all about decorum and etiquette, we are vastly different. And I definitely see the differences because Heather is very loving and affectionate, whereas her mom seems very cold. Now, you can already feel the vibes from Heather that she's getting annoyed with her mom. You have her mom talking about how people today have no morals or scruples or dignity or pride. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody is here for a lecture. Everybody is there to have some drinks, let loose, have a good time. Like, nobody's here for all this. Gina's parents are very sweet, very warm. They're telling her how much they love her, how proud they are of her, and they're just there to have a great night. So now Heather brings up some old stories about her childhood and how her mom would always demand that they attend the special family dinners. So she was like, we still had to go to the restaurant even if we weren't hungry. Like today, if my kids tell me that they don't want to go out to eat, then they can just stay home. It's not a big deal. Then we see Heather say in her confessional that her mom did the best she could, but it wasn't enough. And you can tell that Heather is still triggered even talking about it because she was getting emotional. And my heart really went out for her. And I think that that's why she makes sure that she's so loving with her kids because her mom wasn't loving with her. So now Heather goes on to say that she treats her kids completely different. She goes on to add that if you lock your kids up in a box, they go wild when they finally do get some freedom. So Gina says, yeah, that's so true. And I was actually a good kid because my parents didn't give me a curfew. Like, you know, they trusted me. And Heather says, yeah, same with my kids. And that was actually the same with me and my siblings. We didn't have curfews growing up. It was, you know, just call us when the party was over. They trusted us. We were very honest with our parents. They were very honest with us. Like, we were very blessed that we could talk to them about anything, you know, sex, drugs, whatever it was, we could talk to them. It wasn't awkward. We didn't feel ashamed or weird about anything. It was open communication. And it's great because since it was open communication, we didn't have to sneak and do stuff. You know, like there wasn't anything like, oh, you know, if I do this, I'm going to be in trouble or be grounded. It was like, no, let me talk to my parents first and let them know I'm thinking about doing X, Y, Z. And they always understood, very reasonable. I didn't have that urge to rebel because there was nothing to rebel against. You can tell that the mom felt bad because she was like, no, Heather, it wasn't like that. And then Heather was like, girl, yes, it was. Like, don't try to rewrite history now. And again, you can see that Heather is still hurt by some stuff that happened while she was growing up. So now the dinner's over and we see Gina and Heather go off to the bar by themselves. And Heather's discussing her mom and her behavior. And Gina's like, I see exactly where you get it from. And Heather is like, yeah, but again, we are vastly different. And on top of that, I think that my mom is kind of in a weird mood since my dad passed away. And I can understand that too. That dinner might have brought up old feelings. Like I remember having dinners when we were a young family and I had my husband. And now that he's not here, Heather lives in the West Coast. She might be feeling kind of sad. So now they decide to FaceTime Emily. And while they're talking, Gina says, when we FaceTimed you guys last night, when you guys were at Shannon's house, you seemed annoyed. So Emily fixes her lips and tells a bold-faced lie. She says, yeah, I really was annoyed because Shannon brought you up again and the whole jealousy stuff. Now, I'm like, Emily, don't sit up here and do this. Shannon only brought the jealousy conversation up to clarify that she's not jealous. Also, for you to lie like that and say that you were annoyed the whole night, I said, what a slap in the face. You were sitting up there having the best time in Shannon's house. You were laughing, drinking, eating, talking. You guys were in the pool, sharing a whole bunch of laughs and more champagne, but now you want to get in front of Heather and Gina and say that you didn't have a good time. Emily is such a loser, I really can't stand her. I think I might dislike her more than Gina. So now Heather's shaking her head because she doesn't know the full story, and now she brings up an incident from years ago when she, Vicky, Tamra, and Shannon were on vacation, and Vicky, Shannon, and Tamra were saying that they wanted to have more fun than Heather and the other girls who were on the trip. So Heather's like, yeah, there's this really weird competitive thing with Shannon, so I think that that's what it is. I'm like, Heather, I love you and all, but that's not what this is at all. Shannon is not jealous of Gina. So now they end the FaceTime call with Emily. Gina's upset, and then Heather says, what are we going to do with that? We have some shitty friends. And that's where the episode ends. But y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed my double recap. Thank you all for watching. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.